Hey guys, today we have Dhirendra and he is having total 9.5 year of experience in Java, Spring Boot and microservices. And guys, those who want to give same free mock interview, please fill out the form below in the description. So now let's get started. Hey, hello Dhirendra, how are you?
Yeah, hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm also good. Shall we start?
Yes,
Okay, so Dhirendra, can you please introduce yourself and your recent project in brief?
yes. So I'm having total 9.5 years of in IT, and where I'm working completely in the Java backend developer. So
Mm-hmm.
recent my project is all about the investment banking, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
working for a banking client. So
Mm-hmm.
like I work as an intermediate, where deals are getting created in upstream and that flows to our system, and then we are applying the restrictions and securities as per the compliance regulation, and then we are storing into our database, and then that information is getting passed to the multiple downstream as per their required format
Okay.
or as per their required need. Yes.
Okay,
So this
okay.
is very high level.
Got it, got it. So as you said, you are applying some security. So is it a part of Spring Security?
No, it is not a part of Spring Security.
Okay.
Basically, in banking, like there are compliance regulations, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in upstream, basically deals are getting created, then that are flowed to our system, and then it is like a transaction. Like as an intermediator, we validate
Mm-hmm.
like that deal is a valid deal or not. Whatever
Okay.
companies are part of that deal that are not
Mm-hmm.
valid in terms of that. It is not a Spring Security thing.
Okay. But I have a question like, are you utilizing Spring Security anywhere in your
Right.
project? Can you
Yes, of course.
please explain the architecture where you are applying?
So basically, we are applying the JWT token based authentication in our
Mm-hmm.
application. So for that, we are using Spring Security. So we have total seven microservices in our system. So
Mm-hmm.
like each service, basically, when the user comes to the first on our
Mm-hmm.
page, so he just need to log in by their
Mm-hmm.
user the first service will be called that is a CD service, so that will generate the JWT token, and that
Okay.
for the further calls we will pass that JWT token into headers, and that will be
Mm-hmm.
validated. And yes, that's
Okay.
the way we are.
Okay, so Dhirendra, as we know, when multiple, I mean, in Spring Boot, there are multiple auto configurations possible, right? So when auto configurations, I mean, multiple auto configurations are possible, so how does Spring Boot decide which one to load?
So basically, multiple auto configurations possible. So it will be decided based on the profiling. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, you did need to define the profile. So like in our case, we are deploying that each microservice on the OpenShift through the help of the through the Kubernetes. So
Mm-hmm.
based on the profiling, whatever profile we define, like dev profile should start our prod profile or SIT profile. So based on the profile, it will start the auto configurations. Like in auto configuration, it will do the database connection, and in whatever basic
Okay,
configurations are defined, that will do it.
okay. Like, do you know about conditional annotation or
Correct. Yes.
uh,
At the conditional class, yes.
mm,
So basically, at the rate Spring Boot application, at the rate Spring Boot application have combination of three, right? So at the rate enable auto configuration internally works. So when you define any dependency inside the
mm,
pom.xml, so internally it will call the at the rate conditional or bean conditional class. So like
mm,
you don't need to call the manual that code, and it will do it will
mm,
manage internal loading of the particular beans and
okay,
dependencies.
got it, got it. And also it scans all the Spring dot factories files on the class path, right? And loads a configuration that meets all
Correct.
conditions,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Correct.
Let's say your Spring Boot application takes 90 seconds to start due to heavy context initialization. So how would you optimize the startup time?
So to start the startup type, basically we can use the lazy loading, lazy initialization. Like we
Mm-hmm.
can use the lazy initialization. So
Mm-hmm.
with the help of that, it will
Mm-hmm.
initialize only required beans at the startup type, and once the your application is startup, and later on you can like initialize the required beans as per the user requirement. So you can do one thing, and also few coding optimization coding techniques you can follow. Like you can follow design pattern, so it will not create multiple objects, and you can appropriate to the object creation flows, and you
Mm-hmm.
can code. So that the thing you
Okay,
can do.
got it, got it. And also we can remove unused starters or beans. We could use profiles to load only environment specific beans, right?
Right.
Right, right. Okay. I want to share something important with you. Actually, Tirendra prepared from our interview preparation kit and cracked multiple interviews. We have also referred him to the multiple companies. So let me tell you, this interview preparation kit has four main parts. First is complete interview preparation material. It is a step-by-step material made by me, expert and MNC's interviewers. 99% of the questions asked in interviews are covered in it. Second is two real enterprise client projects. Code and video recorded sessions are there, and you can add this in your resume. Third is lifetime chat support. Here you can ask your doubts anytime. Fourth is referral support. Here we help you to get referred to the top MNCs. So guys, basically this material is organized as per your experience level and covers Java, Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring Data JPA, microservices, Kafka, Maven, Git coding questions, Stream API coding questions, and many more. You can buy just the complete interview preparation material or the full interview preparation kit with project supports and referrals. I have added the links in the description below. So now moving to our interview. And guys, before moving to our interview, since Dhirendra is here, so we can ask for a feedback. So Dhirendra, can you please go ahead?
Yes, yeah, hi, Fizan. So basically, yeah, I have taken this interview kit last month, and then it is very helpful, and I
Mm-hmm.
will recommend to everyone because what is this? In today's time we have a lot of things to get prepared, but it will provide you centralized place where you can get all the things, and you don't need to go anywhere else. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can focus here, then definitely I believe we will be able to crack all the
Mm-hmm.
interviews, and mostly questions will come from
Okay.
this kit
Yep.
only. So thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Yep. Thank you. Moving ahead. How would you debug a scenario where transactional annotation is not rolling back even after an exception?
Uh, how would you Okay, so basically, transactional annotation follows the internally asset property.
Mm-hmm.
So suppose it will not work. It, so your question is how we
Like
will
how would you
basically
debug? So transactional means rolling back if there is some
correct
issue, right?
exception
But
is
it is not
right.
rolling back even after an exception.
So for that we need proper propagation, right? Propagation we need to do follow like require and requires
Mm-hmm.
new, and then we can basically implement the proper logging mechanism, like
Mm-hmm.
inside the method where transactional method is running, and
Mm-hmm.
then with the help of transactional, basically we can check the logs and we can see like which query is not getting a rollback and which transaction is getting not properly success because
Mm-hmm.
transactionals to the auto commit on the successful scenarios and it will should roll back. So with the help of logs, we can analyze the where
Mm-hmm.
it's failing, and also we can do the proper uh, requires no requires propagation. We can use the
Mm-hmm.
proper propagation.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So moving ahead, let's say you have a REST API. It's returning large data set, means 1 million plus rows. So how would you handle memory and performance efficiently here?
Okay. So yes, in our application also, this is a scenario where we are returning large data sets. So
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we can implement the pagination. So like we can implement the pagination. So with the help of the
Mm-hmm.
pagination, we will return the required data based on the pagination size,
Mm-hmm.
whatever we get from the UI side. And so this way, the performance will not be great because query will be optimized. It will
Mm-hmm.
run multiple. And second, what's the question? I think
Yeah, yeah. How would we handle memory and performance efficiently here?
Okay, so pagination technique we can do one thing, and also second thing. Suppose your query is having read heavy because you are
Mm-hmm.
fetching data from multiple tables, so you can apply the indexing on the database side based on like whatever columns are frequently used. So like there are 10, 20 whatever columns are frequently used, so we can apply the indexing on that column. So there are two things we can apply this.
Correct, correct. Okay, Dhirendra, let's say you have a bi-directional relationship between user and order. Okay, so you understood bi-directional relationship,
Many
right?
to many, right? Yes.
Bi-directional means you like one to one or one to one, or it may be one to
Many
many,
to many,
many
many
to
to many,
many.
right?
Guys, yes.
Okay.
So how do you prevent infinite recursion in JSON serialization?
Super
There
infinite
might have
recursion.
infinite recursion, right?
Oh, recursion. So that's no. How can we get to it? It's serialization basically. No, I don't know about this. How we can
Okay, so
do that.
bidirectional basically means is, let's say user is dependent on order and order is also dependent on user. I mean, user to order, order to user. This is
Right,
bidirectional.
right,
So
right, right.
there might have some infinite recursion happen, right?
I think we can use lazy loading in that case.
Mhm,
Can we
mhm.
go with this one?
We have
Like,
some annotations. We can use a JSON managed reference, JSON back reference,
no.
JSON ignore.
Okay, no, no, no.
Okay.
JSON ignore, I know. JSON back reference and JSON that I'm not
Hmm.
aware. JSON ignore we do use in our case. Yes, okay.
Okay, okay. Okay, so tell me, how would you handle partial updates like patch in GPA without overwriting null fields?
So basically, patch we handle, we are following the entity based approach like JPA based, and also we are
Hmm.
having the JDBC template based approach. So in that
Okay.
case, we are having dynamic update and
Hmm.
dynamic create. So dynamic update we are making like true in that case.
Hmm.
So whatever values are getting passed. So in that
Hmm.
case, the in background the query is getting being generated only the specified number of columns. Suppose
Hmm.
there are 10 columns in the table and you want to update only 5 columns. So
Hmm.
with the help of dynamic update, it will create a query only with the 5 updated columns. So this way we handle.
Yep, yep. Correct. Okay. So tell me, how would you design a bulk update operation in JPA to avoid loading thousands of entities into memory?
Bulk update, bulk update. Yeah. So for that, basically bulk update, and we don't need to undo thousands of JP entities. Okay. So okay. So for that, we are using two ways. First, we are creating a list. Suppose we are suppose we have to update the 10 records for a same
Hmm.
entity, so like 10 rows. So we can create a list of entity, and we
Hmm.
can add that 10 entity objects, and then we can just pass the save all,
Hmm.
like save which is there, right? So it will each entity will have a unique identifier ID, so like primary key. So based on the primary key, it will update all the 10 rows. And second way, in that case, we are calling as stored procedures also. So in some cases, suppose there are some manipulations at the database side, and we need some
Hmm.
calculations or by logical basis. So in that case, we are simply calling the stored procedure. So it will fast, and we can pass the in and
Hmm.
out parameters are there, right? So we can pass the our required database to the stored processor. So two way
Okay.
we are doing that.
And like, do you know JPQL bulk update queries?
Yes, the QA will yes.
Okay, we can also
Bulk up.
utilize that, right?
Correct. But yeah, in our case, we are not doing that. So that's why, like I not
Hmm.
mention,
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
we are doing this way only in our throughout the application.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, so Dhirendra, tell me, how would you design a concurrent system in Java to handle 10,000 plus requests per second?
Okay, so to handle the concurrent system, basically we will implement the we like if we require collections to store any data object, then we will go with the concurrent hash map or concurrent collections which we have. And apart from that, we can use the for us we are using executor service framework.
Hmm.
So with the help of executor service, we can create the thread pools like whatever threads were required. So based on the thread pool, it will handle the multiple requests parallelly. So in
Hmm.
that case, and we are not using synchronize because synchronize is bit slow, and so the using the concurrent collections and thread executor framework you can do. And also we can, like in our case, we are applying the async programming like completable future,
Hmm.
and then we are combining that result all together once we are done
Hmm.
with the computations. So these are the ways which we are using in our system.
Okay, okay. So, okay, one more question. I have a follow-up question. So, how would you decide between synchronized lock and concurrent hash map in such concurrent system that we have discussed recently? Okay.
Synchronous lock and concurrent hash map, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yes. So basically, suppose you have a case where you just
Mm-hmm.
want a very small data set. So
Mm-hmm.
you can go with the synchronized lock. So
Okay.
because synchronized lock will log the complete data set like data object.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose it is list or map, whatever that, and only one thread can perform at the action at the locking mechanism. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
concurrent has basically it work on the segment based locking in
Mm-hmm.
Java 8 after Java 8. So in that case, like multiple thread works on the same data set object
Mm-hmm.
parallelly, and like it will like and in this case, like all the read operations are thread lock free only. So like
Mm-hmm.
you will multiple threads can contribute for the write and update operation in case
Mm-hmm.
of concurrence as well.
Yep, yep.
So it totally depends upon the our use case. So mostly we'll go with the concurrent hash map because we
Mm-hmm.
want concurrency in real life.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So suppose your production system faces a memory leak after a long uptime. So how would you diagnose it and fix it?
Okay, so the first thing, suppose like memory issue is coming, then first we will check with the logs, and then we
Mm-hmm.
will use the logging. Log is the first place where we go for any issue which we
Mm-hmm.
if we face in any production, and then we have some tools like JProfile or like heap dumps. We will check,
Mm-hmm.
so like where we will check whether we are having excessive objects or not there,
Mm-hmm.
and if we are having excessive objects, and then we will analyze the matrix, and based on that we will clear the heap area, because sometime what happens, if you are having multiple lot of static references in our Java code, and you are not
Mm-hmm.
using properly like try resources matlab, means you are not closing properly your resources,
Mm-hmm.
then at the time goes, your objects might grow. So these are the few things we will do this
Cool.
to identify and fix.
Okay. So, Dharendra, what design patterns have you used most in your project or in a large scale enterprise Java applications?
Okay, so basically, yeah, in our case, we have multiple design patterns being used. So, like singleton is a very common for creating the
Mm-hmm.
connection management. So, for like we are maintaining connection pool with the help of singleton instance. So, we will create only one instance of that, and then we are using the factory design pattern, like
Mm-hmm.
for create for providing the object based on the interface
Mm-hmm.
for the interface implementation. And third, we are using observer pattern, like we are using the event-driven programming we are having in our system. So event-driven programming internally use the observer pattern,
Observer
and
pattern.
we are also, yes, we are using facade. Facade. So basically, facade we are using for the validating the user data, like user
Okay.
inputs. We are having facade, and also we are having using async observer.
Okay, so let's say if someone want to design a YouTube kind of system, so which design pattern will help here?
So basically, YouTube design pattern will work as event driven, right? So basically, we can go with the it is a live system. So like other mechanism, uh, we will go with the observer pattern, and we will implement the Kafka. In that case, we will need the Kafka, because
Mm-hmm.
you need the every seconds, you need report for every seconds streaming system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Kafka is a helpful in providing the distributed transactions,
Mm-hmm.
like, and it will constantly publish the message, and consumers will read from that message. So we will use the observer design
Mm-hmm.
pattern. We can go with that.
Yep, yep, correct. Observer design pattern is useful for this kind of system where notifications, subscribers, and
Subscribers,
these are the roles. Okay.
right?
Um, okay, so moving ahead, um, can you explain a scenario where you have implemented Saga design pattern, and if you haven't implemented, but you know where we should implement the Saga design pattern?
Okay. So basically, Saga design pattern is to prevent the cascading failure. So
Mm-hmm.
suppose you have three microservices in your system, and suppose microservice one is connecting to talking to two, and two is talking to microservice three,
Mm-hmm.
and in between some microservice is getting failed constantly. Suppose microservice two is getting failed, and
Mm-hmm.
service microservice is getting calling microservice two constantly. Then your system will like not work as a required. So in that case, to make your system resilience, you can make the use of Saga design pattern. So
Mm-hmm.
like you will not call the macro fall. You will not like it will stop the failing service after a threshold time, and this way it will prevent the cascading failures, and you can make your system resilience. and you can also try multiple like retries and fallback mechanism.
Hmm.
So, and
Correct,
it
correct.
provides two, yes. Saga design patterns provides two eventual consistency and strong consistency, I think.
Okay. Yep. How do you ensure idempotency in microservices while handling duplicate REST or Kafka messages?
So in that case, basically, we should design the producers. Well, whatever Kafka producers we design, we should design an idempotent processor. So there is a
Hmm.
property like producer dot idempotent dot true. So we need
Hmm.
to define that property as a true. So in that case, suppose in between transactions your network goes down or broker got crash. So in that case, it whether it like it process the same message again, so it will not store. So it will not
Hmm.
store a duplicate, and it will make sure you process the unique message. And you can also implement the key based mechanism.
Hmm.
So based on the key, it will
Correct,
follow the
correct.
same.
Okay. Next question is, how do you monitor or how would you monitor and trace requests across 20 plus microservices in production?
Yes. So far, yeah, this because this I have implemented in my project, and I was the
Hmm.
leader for that. So yes,
Okay.
before 2 years back, there were no system because before 2 years back in our application there were no tracing mechanism. So I advised my team to implement the tracing, and Spring with the help of Spring Sleuth we implemented. So each service we need to add a trace ID, like we need
Hmm.
to add a dependency, and then. Each service will have a request workflow. So it will provide a two ID, trace ID and span ID. So trace
Hmm.
ID is a unique ID throughout the request workflow. So in that case, we are using ELK like
Hmm.
ELK stack for the logging mechanism, logging and checking and debugging purpose. So what happens? So if any request, if any issue comes, so we go to the mail and we pick the trace ID, and we go to
Hmm.
the ELK stack and we paste there that trace ID, and with the help of trace ID we can check like this request is started from which
Hmm.
service it is going, and where it got failed. And this is
Hmm.
very helpful to identify the issue in the which service is getting, and then we can identify yes, and then we try to produce the same scenario into local, and we fix
Hmm.
this. So this way we can.
Yep, yep. That's a correct way. Um, Next question is, suppose one of your dependent microservices is down. How would you ensure your service still functions gracefully?
Okay. So in that case, we can make the fault isolation. There are some techniques, fault isolation techniques. So suppose if one of the independent services marked like down. So for that we have event driven. Like in our system, we have created events.
Mm-hmm.
So for what we do, so like we created an event and we are having listeners for that.
Mm-hmm.
So once we created the event, like this task of service one is done, and we return the required response to the user,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go to the other service like service 2 or service 3 wait is there. So it will call the service 2 based on the listeners process and logic what will be defined, and then it will do the processing and uh, save the database or update the data into the database. And if it is failing, so it will not hamper service one response because service one has already done this their jobs. And in that case we can
Mm-hmm.
save the status. Suppose service 2 failed during the processing, then we can
Mm-hmm.
update we can update our like a table with the status like this
Mm-hmm.
like with the proper error message, like yeah, this process failed in this service. So this way we can do this, and we are doing this.
Yep, yep, yep. And in this scenario, how would you configure resilience 4J or circuit breaker?
Circuit breaker and resilience voltage, yes. So basically for that circuit breaker is a part of the resilience, because for that we need a resilience dependency. We will add a
Mm-hmm.
resilience dependency into our system. Then we will define at the resilience annotation, and we will
Mm-hmm.
inside that method like at the controller layer also only we can provide a fallback method. And
Mm-hmm.
like if fallback method, if this service fail, then we will define the fallback method name, and it will call the fallback method. And fallback
Mm-hmm.
method, under the fallback method, we can provide the meaningful information like our system is in maintenance or
Mm-hmm.
our system not working. Please try later. So for these two things, and there are few properties we will define into our application.properties file, like window, time window, something is there. So that are, I'm not exactly remembering as of now, but yeah, there are few properties regarding to resilience. We will define inside the application.properties file.
Correct, correct. Okay, and tell me one more thing. How would you manage configuration across environments like dev, QA, prod for 10 plus microservices?
Okay, so basically, what in our case, I will go with our use case.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a common project. We have 7 microservices. Apart from that, where we have a common projects. We have named as CD Commons. So
Mm-hmm.
under that, we have majorly provided like common entities, common whatever common things, common exception handling, and common
Mm-hmm.
configurations like properties files. Like we have database connections and
Mm-hmm.
email configurations,
Mm-hmm.
passwords, or
Mm-hmm.
anything regarding the system which are common.
Mm-hmm.
And in deployment part, we have a common config file, like config server side. Yeah, common config. So
Mm-hmm.
in common config, whenever like we want to update any configuration for anything, then we will just update the common config, and then we
Mm-hmm.
will just start the required pod into the
Okay,
OpenShift, and it will pick. So this way
okay.
we are
That's
managing. And that common projects dependency we will include in other projects as a jar. Like we can
mm-hmm.
include as a jar there, and it will pick all the configuration from there.
Okay, okay. So tell me, how would you design a simple rate limiter in Java or in Spring Boot?
Basically, yeah. So basically, rate limiter can be implemented as a API gateway layer. API gateway, basically in microservice architecture, it is implemented as a API gateway level. Reason because if user is trying requests frequently, like so, we can bound user. Like the user can try like 10 requests per second or 20 requests per second. So for that, we need a dependency again. We need to add the rate limiter dependency, and then we have a rate limiter keyword like annotation. And at the
Mm-hmm.
rate limiter, we have token based, I think, and leaky bucket.
Mm-hmm.
There are two algorithms we use, but and under that we can provide the tokens, and based on the token. But I don't know how we do that. But yeah,
So
fundamentally,
have you used this algorithm, token bucket, leaky bucket?
no, I have not used this. I have read about this. So
Okay.
token bucket and leaky bucket is there. So we generate token for a fixed window, something is there,
Mm-hmm.
and then in leaky bucket I'm not sure. And then
Mm-hmm.
after each interval, this token getting generated like refreshed, something like this.
Yep, yep. Leaky bucket enforces a steady flow rate, good for traffic
Okay.
shaping. For APIs, token bucket is usually preferred for
No,
flexibility
token
and.
bucket is, yeah,
Mhm.
token bucket is, yeah, I have read about this.
Okay. Tell me step by step, how would you design a caching layer for a stock price API?
Step by step caching mechanism for a stock price. Okay. Okay. Just give me a minute. Stock price, stock price, stock price, stock price.
There is a pattern, cache aside pattern.
Yes, 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 yes. So, like we are using Redis cache in our system. Like so,
Mhm.
like Redis cache we will implement, and we are using at that cacheable annotation we have. So, but what I was thinking about the stock pattern, stock exchange, how we will
Stock
do.
price.
So, the stock price. So, because stock price is very random, right? It will update every frequent seconds. So we can use the cache aside you told, right, and there is right through cache and right behind cache something is there. So, with the help of add cache value notation, we can implement the logic inside the add cache value notation. And for the update, we can use the cache evict. So, like basically, if you are going to update stock price every second or every
Mhm.
minute, then we will implement the cache evict on that update method, and cache put there are this there. So, like it will not load the stale data, and just it will fetch the it will omit the cache, and it will just fetch the latest data from the database. So this way
Mhm.
we will not load the stale data. So at that cacheable, cache evict, and cache put is very helpful in
Mhm.
this case. And uh,
Okay, so I have a question, just a follow-up question on the top of this. How would you handle cache invalidation when data changes?
cache invalidation
Yep,
if
yep.
the data changes.
When data changes.
Okay. Mm. So yes, we can allow some time. Basically, we can implement the time-based management. Like we can allow after 20 minutes at 5 minutes, whatever time we frame,
Yep,
and
yep.
after that we can invalidate that session. We
We
can
could use
yeah.
TTL concept, time to live.
Time to live. Sorry, I missed this. Time to live.
Mhm.
Detail
Yep, yep.
settings.
Okay. Another question is, let's say you are tasked to design a background job scheduler, like for running task periodically. So how would you do
Yeah.
that?
Yes, of course. For this, basically, we are having two ways. In our system, we are having autosys. So basically, in autosys,
Mm-hmm.
we are having jobs. So what that jobs are there? So that job are basically picking the data, like that jobs are being
Mm-hmm.
running based on the schedule, and that then they are picking from our database, and it is forwarding to the
Mm-hmm.
required recipients. Second, we are having cron jobs. We can implement the cron jobs, and with the help of at the schedule notation, we can rewrite the cron expressions,
Mm-hmm.
and cron expressions basically will do the required, like suppose you need to send a report at 9 a.m. every
Mm-hmm.
day or whatever scheduling things you have. So with the help of cron jobs, you can do the scheduling things in our system. So we are having two mechanism, like so we are following the cron jobs also, and we are having autosys for that. So autosys is a separate entity. We are
Mm-hmm.
where we write the jobs, and then that are calling.
Okay, okay. One more question I have related to designing. Let's say you are tasked to design an API to upload files, right? And scan for viruses asynchronously. So how would you do that?
Okay, file upload. Yes, we have upload in our feature. So yes, what we are doing in our case, so basically we have upload feature. So once we are uploading the feature file, then in background we are taking it as a multi-part file. Like as a
Mm-hmm.
rest endpoint, it will multi-part file, and then we will validate that file with the help of extensions, like whether there's a valid instructions or not, valid extension or not. And for the scanning the virus, uh, like we are validating the file, we are validating the file content, but how we will scan the virus, that I'm not like sure how
Okay.
we can.
Yeah, I think that's a different topic. How can we scan the virus? Uh, but I just want to know the steps. So as you
Yes,
said correctly, first user file upload, store in S3 or local storage, and then returns a job ID immediately. Then we have to trigger a background task or message to scan the
correct.
file
Asynchronously.
asynchronously.
Yes, this we are doing. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
then because file talks are always heavy. So what we
Mm-hmm.
are doing, as I told, right? Then we are
Mm-hmm.
creating the async pipeline, and whatever
Mm-hmm.
we need, then we are scanning that file, and we are uh, parsing, and we are getting the column data, row data, and then we
Mm-hmm.
are doing the required things based on our need.
Okay. Um, okay, so moving ahead, how would you design an e-commerce order management system? Okay, just don't explain all the designing stuff. Just tell me the microservices that you would use while working on e-commerce application. Just name the microservices.
Yeah, basically, yes, it is a very common thing for the
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce system. We need few things that are very common. We need order system, we need payments, we need payment
Mm-hmm.
system, and we need inventories, like so
Mm-hmm.
order, inventory, payment, and like we can see these are three main,
Okay.
and
So
order.
in an e-commerce application, tell me where we should use synchronous communication and where we should use asynchronous communication.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, suppose you are dealing with the payment service, right? So payment service, I think we should not go with the asynchronous communication, because it is it should be synchronous, because as soon as you are doing payment, your balance should be get deducted from your account immediately. So you
Mm-hmm.
need a strong consistency there, right? So the system, the workflow where you can not live with the like lags, so you need a real response at the time, then you need to go with the synchronous communication. And suppose for inventory, right, or for where you can live with the eventual consistency, like you have processed that order, and and you can update in background the inventory,
Mm.
suppose. So in that case, you can go with the asynchronous communication, and you can implement the Kafka based approach, and then in background, like you process the order, and in background, meanwhile you can update your inventory. So in that
Mm.
case, you can go with the asynchronous systems.
Yep,
You
yep. Okay, so Dhirendra, it's done from my end, and yes, it was a very, very nice interview.